You keep hearing this rumor going around that red meat will cause cancer, heart attacks, stroke, and diabetes. Recently, there was an interesting study that came out that analyzed 5 different meta-analysis, which are studies of studies, and looked at all this data, and they came up with the conclusion that adults should continue their current consumption of meat and processed meat. And then on the flip side, you hear the opposite, right? The USDA guidelines say that no, you need to decrease your consumption of meat and start eating plant-based foods, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, this is the recommendation of the USDA, the FDA, NIH, AMA, AHA, ADA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's conflicting information, which is like the hallmark of what happens in health all the time. So anytime you have conflicting information, it's really important to dig into it and try to find out that the details that they don't tell you in these articles that you read online or in the news. There's always some missing information or some hidden information that will then finally reveal the true information. And so when I started digging into this topic, I want to know who's funding it. Okay. I want to know if there's any bias. I want to know the type of studies that they do. This is what I found. Most of the research, if not almost all the research, is observational studies. This has to do with questionnaires, and you're relying on the person's memory to remember what they ate. It's not very credible. It's kind of a good guess, and you could make these studies look any way that you want them. There's so many variables involved. And so you do this huge questionnaire with a lot of people over 5 years, and then you come up with this conclusion. And so out of all the studies, the observational studies are the lowest credibility on the totem pole. There is absolutely no randomized controlled trials examining eating beef in disease. And I'm talking about processed beef and definitely grass-fed beef. It's almost impossible to do because there's so many variables, and you'd have to do it for such a long time. And who's going to pay for that research? And I also found some interesting information on a real credible or so-called credible physician who's defending the current guidelines and is really attacking the conclusion of the 5 meta-analysis, Dr. David Katz. He's about promoting the global expert consensus. So you need to follow what everyone agrees on as being the truth in health. And of course, I found that he's not very keto friendly. Okay, he doesn't like the ketogenic diet. He considers it is a fad. And also I found out he's one of the annual judges for the yearly ranking of diets by the U.S. News and World Report, which is basically a news site camouflaged as a very credible source of diet information. And he's also the president of True Health Initiative, which is more plant-based, which we know doesn't necessarily have to do with plants. It could be grains, right? And I also found out that the company Hershey's, as in Hershey's chocolate, paid him $331,000 for some research. I also found Quaker Oats paid him $633,000 for some research. Big Sugar hired him as an expert witness. And of course, he ends up saying things like, quitting sugar is not the answer. And so the question is this credible, right? And so it's really important when you actually hear some of these claims, you have to look at both sides, find out if there's any vested interest, find out the quality of the studies. And just so you know, there probably is not going to be in the future any randomized controlled trial examining any diet in relationship to disease. It's too difficult to do, especially if you do it long-term. There's too many areas for variables. Each individual person comes with their own weaknesses and their strengths. So it's a very difficult area to do research in. And this is one of the times where I think it's going to be very important for you just to test it out yourself and see how you feel, how your health benefits, how your energy goes up or goes down. So then you personally will have the firsthand knowledge of seeing if something works or not. And I will say this, if healthy keto and intermittent fasting is the way to go. And if you're new to my channel, I put a link down below of a new plan that you can do that can greatly benefit you and there's no cost. So just download it and get started immediately. Hey, before you go real quick, I have a course entitled How to Bulletproof Your Immune System. It's a free course. I want you to take it. And here's why. Here's you. Here is your environment. Everyone is focused on this over here, avoiding your environment. But what about here? What about strengthening your immune system? That's what's missing. This course will show you how to bulletproof yourself. And so you can tolerate and resist your environment much better by strengthening your own immune system. I put a link down in the description right down below. Check it out and get signed up today.